Hello, welcome to Leading the Way at Leonard's, and I'm your host, Dwayne Knepper. Today, we honor Women's History Month with a topic that's near and dear to our hearts: women behind the wheel. Our special guest is uniquely qualified to speak on this topic. Leonard's Express driver Ann McFarland is a finalist for the prestigious Driver of the Year award, which the Women in Trucking Association gives out each year to recognize outstanding female professional drivers. And welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
And of course, riding shotgun with me is Leonard's Express CEO Ken Johnson. Welcome, Ken.
Hey, Dwayne. Great to be here.
Now, Ann, how did you get started as a professional driver?
I got started by moving my boys and I from Logan, Utah to Twin Falls in the largest U-Haul truck and pulling the largest trailer and just driving it, maneuvering it. And my boyfriend at the time said, if you can move that, you can drive a truck. And so it was about 4 months later, I got my learner's permit, and he was driving for Giltner. I spoke with Doug Belvins, who was the owner at the time, and he said yes. And so I learned in a 1975 cab over going from Twin Falls. It was a shuttle, so it was Twin Falls, Universal Cold Storage to Tater Boy up in Pasco. And so I had great training ground. It was learning the curves going through Oregon on 84, which everybody knows there's a lot of wrecks through there, and learning how to go up and down cabbage. I I'm just going to put this out there. I was kind of abused while I was learning. I had a tire thumper that every time I ground a gear or missed a gear, I got my knuckles whacked with the tire thumper.
Oh, wow.
And verbally abused and stuff like that. So it was a rough road, and then it ended up leaving my husband after. Well, he became my husband. Then I left him, and then I went to work for a couple other companies, and then finally ended up with NACA out of Ontario. They're no longer in business. Wound up with a great trainer, and so then I drove from Idaho to New York every week, and then went over, picked up wine flavorings out of Maryland, took that down to California, and then got a load from California back to Idaho and did the same thing. Did that for like 4 years.
Wow.
So I had a lot of miles under me just with that company.
Great.
Yeah, from Idaho to New York, I'm sure you'd rack up the miles pretty quickly. So you've been driving, from what I understand, more than 30 years.
Yes,
How
like
many
30
miles
years.
have you actually logged in?
3.5 million, and I did not know this until Will told me. I was in shock over that itself. I mean, I was just driving, doing my job, earning a living, taking care of my family. I was not keeping track of miles or anything like that. I didn't even know how that process works. But anyway, so yeah,
It's
3.5
impressive.
million. And then I just reached 1 million miles with Leonard's Express about a month ago, maybe 6 weeks ago or something like that.
That's
So I
awesome.
get a sticker on my truck.
There you go.
Yeah, that's awesome. I often wondered, Anne, when you probably began your driving career, whether or not women got how they were treated then versus the way women are treated now in the trucking industry. Certainly, there's so many more women. For those that don't know, I am in risk control, and I do find that the numbers don't lie. Women tend to be a lot more risk adverse. They give me a little less to have to worry about. But I do wonder sometimes how women might have been treated then as they are now. And you mentioned a little tougher stance that was taken in your teaching approach, or how you were taught.
Yeah, I would like to have taught him a couple of things, but I was
I
too
bet.
too scared to.
I bet. Well, I'm glad you stuck with it. So you're with us here today.
Well, thank you.
Awesome asset out there in Idaho. For those, Idaho is the she mentioned taters, the potato capital of the world. There's that commercial, Ann, about the guy that's in search of the biggest potato. He's a truck driver. I don't know if you've come across the largest potato you've ever seen out there.
My husband used to work for our Ida, and we got like huge potatoes. I mean, that would be like a family of six, just one
Yeah,
potato going to our Ida to be turned into French fries, tater tots, and
there
whatever.
you go.
So they do exist.
Oh, they do exist, yes.
But before we get to Ann's award, Ken, let's talk about Leonard's Express being recognized as one of the top companies for women to work for in 2022. Like, how does this kind of recognition help Leonard's as a business?
Well, sure. As you mentioned, women drivers tend to be safer, and by being recognized by women in trucking, I think it gives us, some credibility, to in our recruiting process, of women drivers, that we've been vetted, that we offer great programs, and and certainly, the best fleets. We just won the best fleets for 2023. We want to be the best fleet for all of our drivers. To work for, and certainly being recognized by the women in trucking, it acknowledges that it's not just overall. We do focus on providing a great workplace for women, and by winning this, it gives our recruiters something to show, and independent verification that we are what we say we are.
Yeah, absolutely. And before we came on here, we had mentioned what an honor it is to be celebrating the fact that you're one of three finalists. How did you find out you were one of only three finalists for this coveted award, and how did you react? Because my guess is you weren't aspiring to do this. This has just kind of happened. This attention that you're getting right now is
All this
explain it.
attention is very overwhelming, let me tell you. So I first heard about it. Will had called me when I was out on the road and told me that I had been nominated for this. He didn't tell me he was the one that nominated me, so I thought it was Rob. But I still didn't understand just how important of a nomination this was. And so he said, when you get into the yard, he says, come into the office and see me. And so I went in, and then Will was there, Lindsay Mullen, Kara Bourne, and Jaron. I don't know what his last name is. Anyway, and then he presented me the official announcement that I was one of three finalists. And even though I was reading it, it took like a day for it to sink in just how important, this was for our company, for women in trucking and everything. And, just the accomplishments that I've achieved driving the truck. I didn't set out to do any of this. It just happened.
Started from the U-Haul truck.
Yeah, that darn U-Haul truck.
Well, we got to move stuff. Ken, what was the nomination process actually like? Like, what stood out in Ann's application that made her a finalist?
I think probably the biggest thing was the mentorship that she provides. Other drivers, other women drivers, that she takes the time, to mentor them, and try to teach them, try to bring them up, lift them up. I think that was a big part of what set her apart from maybe some of the other women that were nominated for this award.
And as Ken mentioned, the mentoring that you do and the training that you do that really helped to make you stick out. You're committed to mentoring and training other drivers. Why is that important to you?
Because I want them to have the tools they need to succeed like I have. I don't want them to have to go down the road that I had to go through to learn how to drive truck. I want them to have all the right tools. It's not like just because you're a woman, you get a special pink toolbox that says, here, this is for you. You can do your job. You're using the exact same tools, the same knowledge, mistakes, whatever, to learn to be a better driver. You chain up the same way a guy does. There's no difference. It's just you're a woman versus man. That's the only difference. And I just wanted them to make sure that they knew how to do their job and not depend on anybody else. You can do this yourself. You just have to set yourself up for success. If you need a hammer, a tool to cut those seals, instead of running into the company and having to waste a half an hour, to get that, to even get in the dock or anything like that, have everything you need. So you're in that dock within 15 minutes and you're off the clock, and you're not wasting your minutes. Everything counts out there on the road. It really does.
Absolutely. Ken, Leonard's Express they're really on a roll here when it comes to winning awards associated with women in the workplace. Anne is a finalist for the Driver of the Year. Leonard's is a top workplace for women in transportation. And earlier this month, Leonard's Express Director of Fleet Safety, Katie Griffin, was named a top woman to watch in trucking. Mm-hmm. To what do you attribute all this success?
I think probably, the one thing that I can point to is, the strong women in my life. My mother, my sister, and my wife, my aunt, they were all a big part of Leonard's, as well as my dad's prior company, KJ Transportation. It's one of the reasons, we came out with the Pat Johnson Award, and I'm certainly proud to have that. It recognizes women doing positive things, the contributions they're making to our company, and the path that my mother laid for others to follow. It's certainly worth recognizing, and that women can be a part of this business. They can contribute. They can do everything. As Ann was talking about, that there's equal playing field. Everybody's treated the same, especially in the driver role, and that they can lead. They can be a big part of our company, and I think that was the way I was brought up. That was the way Kevin and Kyle were brought up. That you treat people the way you want to be treated, and everybody's treated equal. And that there's a place here, at Leonard's, and there's a place in the industry, and I think it makes me proud to win these awards. But Ann mentioned that she was surprised, because she was just doing her job, to the best of her ability. I'd like to think that we're winning these awards, but we're just doing what we do. I mean, we go out there and get the job done, and we support the people that are working for us, and regardless of what gender. But but the culture and the values we have, they come squarely from my mother, which is why we have the Pat Johnson Award.
Yeah, it's a great promoter and builder as well. Ann, for all that has changed over your 30-year career, what are the few things that stand out the most?
Well, when I first got into this, I could check into a shipper and they pretty much wouldn't acknowledge me. I had to bring my boyfriend in, and he'd tell them the exact same thing, and then they would accept that. I was like a nobody, and so that was pretty rough. I had to write some stuff down here. Back then, there was a lot of sexual innuendo thrown at you, just vulgar statements and stuff like that. Not so much anymore. So that was definite improvement. Back then you got harassed, you had nobody to go to help you. It was your word against, the man. And now we at least have acknowledged that problem, and we now have classes on harassment and, learning how to respect one another, because you're all doing the same job. There's no difference or anything like that. And so the work environment has definitely improved from when I first started out. And human resources is just wonderful. We didn't have very much, especially small company that I work at in Idaho, they didn't have a human resources. I don't even think they knew what that was. So we've come a long way since then. You support your drivers more than what they used to back then.
Well, what are you most proud of?
I'm going to go kind of off my script here.
Yeah, that's
All right.
I have to, sorry. I have a few different job titles in my career, such as a farm truck hauling silage. That was after the U-Haul because they wanted me to learn how to shift.
mhm.
And I was in a field, I wasn't going to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
So then I ended up going over the road, and I ended up hauling blue ribbon beef out of Hiram, Utah to Canada, swinging meat. So it's on the rails with the
Right.
hooks,
Right.
and ended up going up 15 up Highway 2. And it has all these curves, and you don't want the meat swinging and you don't want it going back and forth. So I learned to respect signs. When it says, slow down 10 miles, I was like 15 or 20 miles under. So I learned how to read the signs and do what it says, and then end up pulling a pneumatic trailer, and I hauled salt from Torona, California, it's like a salt flat, and it's kind of has liquid in it. And I take that down to Chevron in El Segundo, is a big refinery down there. And I would unload that, and then the salt slowed down, so then I switched to pneumatic doubles. And then I did cement and fly ash, potash, limestone, whatever, silica sand. That went for doing glass, and some of it went for making shower stalls to go in homes.
I got you.
And then, let's see, what else? I here about 12 years ago, I got off the road. My husband threatened me, so I had to get off the road. And so we went doing construction. So then I learned how to drive an end dump, how to back it up and make sure that it's level, so when the bed goes up in the air, it doesn't fall over. Transferring, I drove a transfer truck, and that's where it's a dump truck, and then it has a trailer, and then you have to back up. You drop the tongue, you have to back the truck up to the trailer, and then you have to run that trailer or that bed that's on the trailer into the dump truck, and then go dump it, and then you have to reverse everything. And so there's a system to that, because it only takes one mistake and you'll end up dumping the pup on the ground, or you didn't set your brakes or something, or you run over the tongue or anything like that. So if you're talking to somebody, you're better off starting that routine all over again to make sure that you didn't make any mistakes, so you don't damage the equipment. And so I'll make it real short, but basically all of those tools and stuff have helped me to be a better driver and more aware of what I'm doing every day out there on the road. There's so much more to driving a truck than just keeping it between the lines. There's just so much more to it.
Yeah, most people agree that driving trucks is not an easy task, but to have a resume like yours, I don't know that many can actually say they're that experienced, which obviously is something to certainly be proud of. It is, you mentioned about some of the things that have gotten improved being a woman in the trucking industry, which is also something that all of us can hang our hand and always trying to get better at recognizing the diversity that comes along with the inclusion in the workplace as well. Well, and I tell you, so proud of you.
I have a funny story. You want to hear it?
Absolutely.
Okay, so NACA the reefer side was going out of business. They were keeping the agricultural side, which brought the potatoes to Ore-Ida.
Okay.
So my husband had to drive for NACA for a year. And so then after that, we went to US Express, and we were team. And anyway, we had decided to get married, and we almost missed our own wedding.
Wow.
We kept telling them that we had to get home. We told them it was May 3rd and all that. And we belonged to a car club, and the car club set everything up at our friend's house because we wanted it to be like a Western wedding and stuff like that. Anyway, we got there with 6 hours to spare.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's close.
we dropped the trailer in Boise and we bobtailed to Dan and Kathy's house and stuff and got ready for the wedding. So
Wow.
we had a big car show, we had a bonfire, we had people just stay all night long. It was the best wedding party ever. They said we have to do this every year. Best wedding ever.
Sounds like fun. I'm glad you made it on time. That was close.
Oh my, yeah, 26 years been married, so it
Well,
works.
congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, in the trucking industry, that can you made it work. You are the consummate example of being able to make it work. As we mentioned earlier, Leonard's Express driver Ann McFarland is one of three finalists for the Women in Trucking Associations in 2023 Driver of the Year award, sponsored by Walmart. The winner will be announced at the Salute to Women Behind the Wheel event hosted by Women in Trucking on Friday, March 31st at the Mid America Trucking Show in Louisville, Kentucky. And thank you again for joining us today, and best wishes in Louisville.
Thank you very much. I'm looking forward to it.
And Ken, as always, thanks for providing your insight.
Yeah, great to be here. And Ann, I want you to know, how proud all of us here at Leonard's Express is of you. You've certainly represented us well. You do your job day in and day out, and you're proud to be a part of your journey, and part of this award that you've been you're a finalist for. And quick side story: you mentioned the cab over. My first truck was a cab over, and I hadn't been in a cab over in probably close to 25 years. And we have a demo unit of electric truck out here, and it's a cab over. And I almost walked out of it straight forward. Once I got in, I forgot how to get out. So I hope that if the industry does go electric, they stick with the conventionals versus the cab overs. Otherwise, I'm not sure how often I'll get in and out of them. But again, Ann, it's great to have you here on the podcast with us, and congratulations. And again, we're very proud that you're part of the Leonard's family.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Well, that's a wrap for this edition of Leading the Way at Leonard's. If you have questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you at Leading the Way at Leonard's Express. That's Leading the Way, all one word, at leonardsexpress.com. And please don't forget to like, follow, and subscribe to the podcast. Again, I'm your host, Dwayne Knepper. Until next time, keep on trucking.